Good morning, Latin America. Good evening in China. Welcome to this online seminar, Electromobility plus Chinese. This webinar will be taught in Spanish, Portuguese, English, and translated into Chinese, Mandarin Chinese. You can select your language at the bottom of your screen. I am Roberto Lafontaine, Director of the Center for International Cooperation of the Teaching of Chinese, Language Center for Education and Cooperation, Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean. Our center in Latin America and the Caribbean is dedicated to teaching the Chinese language among public and private institutions, national government, local governments, higher education institutions, secondary and primary education institutions. Electromobility is becoming a priority for many countries in Latin America and the whole world due to environmental and economic benefits that it can offer. Electric vehicle technology is advancing rapidly, and governments are investing in charging infrastructure to promote its use. However, the development of this discipline is crucial, not only to invest in technology and infrastructure, but also in education and training of professionals in areas such as engineering and management and marketing. In this context, learning foreign languages such as Chinese can offer a big importance and use. China is one of the world leaders in production and sale of electric vehicles, and many Latin American companies are establishing alliances of commercial agreements with Chinese companies in this area. Having Chinese languages skills could open job opportunities and collaboration in field of electromobility. A part of this, at the bottom of your screen, you will find the questions and answers sections where you can send your questions to the panelists, and they will be answered at the end of this webinar. The architect and urban planner, Christopher Spirit, will answer the questions and ask the questions to the panelists. We remind you that this webinar will be recorded and published on the YouTube channel. The chat section will, in the chat section, we will have the link to this part. You will be able to check the workshop that we'll organize, and we will also check the chat and the social networks that will be shared in the chat. This will all be shared for free. We will also give a diploma to those who attend an 80% of the seminar. This will be obtained in the Zoom platform automatically. The diplomas will be sent automatically to your email during the following weeks. Now I will leave you with the Deputy Director of the Center of Cooperation of the CLEC Regional Office, Su Min Yang, who will present to the panelists, the Chinese panelist, Dr. Yang Saiming. Welcome, Min Yang.
Thank you, Roberto, Director. Our dear friends from Latin America and the Caribbean and China, good morning and good evening. First, welcome to our Chinese Plus webinar. Actually, Chinese Plus, this topic, from last year, we focused on this topic and this field. As the development, the China and Latin America, the Chinese is related on some field, different fields. For all the time, we explore and broaden the concept of Chinese Plus, make the Chinese to offer the trade and development between China and Latin America. Today's topic is electric mobility. So we invite a very expert doctoral supervisor from Beijing Jiaotong University, Zhang Caiping. Mr. Zhang Caiping, winner the National Outstanding Youth Science Fund, a senior member of IEE, and a rising star of Beijing Science and Technology, served as the director of Beijing Society and Automotive Engineering, vice chairman of Advanced Energy Storage Science and Application Group of Youth Industry Community of China Electronic Technical Society, and published 46 SCI journal papers, including 27 first and corresponding author papers, authorized 15 inventions, patents, co-authored one English monograph, preside over one group logo, won one second prize and National Science and Technology Progress Award, and won one National Science and Technology Progress Award. So it's a great honor to invite Professor Zhang, and we invite Zhang to introduce the statutes and visions in China new energy cars. It's a great honor to have this opportunity to participate in this webinar. Today, I will introduce the development status and vision of China's new energy vehicles. I will introduce from these three topics. So first one, the environment demand background of the new energy vehicles. And new energy vehicles play a very important role in carbon neutrality and carbon emission. Now in China, we developed the new energy and electronic vehicles, and it's born in China. Now I introduce the process of Chinese electric vehicles. From last century, China put forward the concept stage. From 2000, we start the technology ministry and put this project in a very important project and determine the three vertical and three horizontal routines. From 2011 to 2015, the new energy vehicles has been listed a key project entered a period of rapid development. Up to now, the new energy vehicles, China's new energy vehicle industry began to gradually transform from a policy-oriented market to a market-oriented market. These 2 years for the policy, it's changing from the large scale. And so now all the policy to save energy and for the charging and the swap station, these 2 years is published different documents. From the history of Chinese new energy vehicles technology development, now new energy vehicles include hybrid vehicles, pure electric vehicles, fuel cell electric vehicles, hydrogen engine vehicles, and other new energy. This chart gives us different progress of the new energy vehicles. For example, pure electric is based on the electricity. It's the hybrid. Now I will introduce the hydrogen power vehicles. We put the hydrogen fuels to replace the conventional fuels. And it's the same concept about motor. It's the categories of the new energy vehicles. As a development of carbon neutrality, the transportation energy integration is a main direction of the new energy vehicles. It's to accomplish the carbon emissions the goals. Next, I will introduce the technology development. From this chart, it gives us the power batteries, the process. From the lead acid batteries, a hydrogen fuel, now the main batteries is solid state batteries. It's a hot point to research these batteries. Now in China, have some companies to research the solid state batteries. It's the categories of the power batteries. From the right chart, you can see the density of the lithium batteries. In the past few years, we pursue the high density batteries. To now, in these 2 years, it appeared as a nickel cadmium batteries. In some new batteries, it appears some solid state batteries. It's safer. And next, I will introduce the current situation of new energy vehicles in China. These two charts is the rank of the Chinese new vehicles, new energy vehicles company, and we can see maybe other friends know, you know the company of BYD. It's the main proportion in China of this company. Also, you can see this Tesla is also very popular in China. It's in the third place in China. And from the right picture, it's collected 2022 in December, the sales market in China. And we can see from this chart, it appears that the proportion of penetration cities is Shanghai. It's up to 53.9%. It means if it sold 100 cars, 53 cars is new energy vehicles. So up to now, China has become the world's largest consumer market for electric vehicles. At the end of 2022, the number of pure electric vehicles in China will be 10.45 million, accounting for 79.78% of total number of new energy vehicles. This is left appears as number of new energy vehicles in China. The market is thriving in China, and the right, it gives us last year in 2022, the new energy electric vehicles, the types of new energy vehicles, several of it from BYD company. For the application situation and proportions, private cars play a very important role in new energy. Private car is 65% in new energy. For the public cars, bus is the mainstream. For example, in Beijing, promote all the bus to change new energy vehicles. So up to now, including taxis, in a few years, they must change to the electric vehicles. In the new energy period, for example, for the logistics, next is the battery technology development. Now, power batteries are the heart of the electric vehicles. And this the market is in the first place in the world. As the development of these years, the technology and the materials for the skills and assembly make a big progress. So during this chart, in this chart, it has the ladder utilization and recycling. It has developed in the past 10 years in China in new energy vehicles. That is to say, up to now, China has a large number of the batteries to replace the old batteries. So now the business mode used to the storage batteries and the ladder utilization and recycling and like this ladder utilization for China, for the technology ministry to start use this project and technology to the market. And no new system power batteries, for example, solid state and lithium-ion batteries and other new categories batteries. So up to now, in 2022, the cumulative installed capacity of power batteries in China will be 284.6 gigawatts. Among them, the cumulated installed capacity ternary battery is 110.4 gigawatts, and the cumulative installed capacity of lithium-ion phosphate battery with the development, the power batteries. So sorry for the internet problems. I'm offline. So now I will continue my topic. As we all know, the battery management system is the only link between the battery and the vehicle's controller. And it's the safety and the optimization is very important. It's the only link between battery and the vehicle's controller, and its goal to ensure the optimal performance of the battery in the short term and safe and reliable operation in a long time. So up to in China, the car vehicle management system is a cloud batteries management system. Actually, it's the car battery. It's accomplish the electric pressure and the electric and the temperature to monitor. And in the cloud battery management system, it's based on the statistics of the history and some and we can accomplished the renewal according to some the evaluation of the bricks. And so this is the rank of the batteries management system in China. So now in China, China's charging infrastructure will continue to improve. Up to now, by the end of the 2022, the cumulative number of charging infrastructure in China will be 5.21 million units. A year-on-year increase is 99.1%. In 2022, the number of power stations in China will continue to increase. Some Chinese car company, especially in China, Beijing, Texas, they can achieve the swap batteries and they can accomplish its most rapid battery swap. This is the development status of electric drive technology for electric vehicles. It includes 4 levels, namely powertrain, core components, core materials, and components. So now is how hydrogen batteries is the hot point in China. For the National Technology Ministry, for the fuel battery vehicles, for now, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles include fuel cell buses, trucks, logistics vehicles, and other commercial vehicles. It mainly includes the fuel battery stack and the fuel battery system, and it's the usage of the fuel cell batteries for the hydrogen batteries. Like fuel cell batteries, with the development in the past 10 years, China make a big progress in hydrogen batteries. For the density and efficiency, make a big progress in China. And this is the key technology in fuel cell battery system. And in this chart, you can see, in order to meet the technical requirements of vehicles' environment adaptability, durability, and low cost, the key technology restricting the promotion and application fuel vehicles, including fuel cell power system platform integration and control technology. And another one is hydrogen production, especially for the green hydrogen production. And now hydrogen liquefaction, pipeline, transportation, and pressurized fueling technology are the 3 key technical issues. Intelligent networked vehicles is also in thrive, and we can accomplish the vehicles safe, efficient, comfortable, and energy saving. So up to now, in intelligent network vehicles, China's government also make a plan and in some district to accomplish this technology. And next is the development vision in China, new energy cars. Up to 2025, the new energy vehicles can complete industrial chain and independent. In 2035, the new energy cars will above 160 million new energy cars. By 2030, realize the large-scale popularization and application of hydrogen energy and fuel cell vehicles in some trucks, buses, and SUV. And the main introduction is that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Shang Saiping. And thank you very much for giving us such an important view of what is technology and electromobility in China today. And mainly, thank you very much for having accepted our invitation, being so late in China. Finally, at the end of the presentations of the professors, Cristobal Spetter, architect and urbanist, we will ask some specific questions too. So now we will continue with Dr. Aramis Perez. Thank you very much for being here and welcome.
Bachiller y licenciado en Ingeniería Eléctrica por la Universidad de Costa Rica. Obtuvo una maestría en Administración y Dirección de Empresas con énfasis en gerencia y es egresado de la Maestría de Ingeniería Industrial. Doctor en Ingeniería Eléctrica por la Universidad de Chile, donde sus estudios se aplicaron a la estimación del estado de carga y el estado de salud en baterías de iones de litio. Tiene una especialidad postdoctoral realizada en el Centro de Energía de la Universidad de Chile. Desde el año 2005 es docente de la Escuela de
Since
Ingeniería.
2005, he has been a professor at the School of Electrical Engineering in the University of Costa Rica. He has been a consultant on renewable energy, electromobility, battery life management, and design of energy storage and pilot projects for multiple national and international organizations. He has published more than 40 scientific articles and has collaborated as a reviewer of multiple national and international organizations. He has published more than 40 scientific articles and has collaborated as a reviewer for several renowned magazines and conferences. He has been invited speakers at national congresses and speaker at various international conferences in America, Europe, and Asia. He's been an active member at the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering and Prognosis of Health Management Society. And thank you. So now we will share screen. So can you see my screen? You can, right? Yes, we can. Great. Okay. Good morning, good evening, everyone. So the title of this speak is called Electromobility in Costa Rica, Luxury or Need? And my intention is to be able to tell you a little bit about the experience that we have here in Costa Rica about electromobility. So when we talk about Costa Rica at a global level, we look at ourselves and we feel as a country filled with energy, with clean energy, with nature. And as you can see in this picture, this is a portal, the website of our Ministry of Nature. And what you see here is pictures of sites here in Costa Rica. And something that is very curious that happens here in Costa Rica, as we are a very small country, is that we have the saying that we can have breakfast in the Caribbean and we can have lunch in the mountains in the center of the country and see the sunset in the Pacific in just one day. Costa Rica is a very small country, and going from one place, from one part to the other is very in just one day. It's just in very little time, and you can see everything. So the biggest source is hydroelectric energy. That is why hydroelectricity is the high weight of everything. And the second part, the second place of energy is geothermal energy. So as we have so many mountains and volcanoes, it's very easy for us to have geothermal energy. And in the third place, we have wind energy, which is what we have been seeing more and more in the last time. We have many wind parks. Here in Costa Rica, generating thermal energy from fossil fuels is not that common. In fact, the thermal park that we have is not that much used. And there are some cases in which we have had more than 360 days in which we have not had any need to fire up these parks. In the right-hand side, you can see a comparison of the different uh, parks, the different generations. So we do not need coal. Mostly everything we can be used with electricity. So in fact, photovoltaic energy has been appearing more and more in the last couple of years. And mainly with a change of laws, we have been seeing it more and more. And in fact, if you compare these two graphs, we could start questioning that Costa Rica is moving forward with that. But this is something that we cannot say for fact, because if we start seeing the consumption, not the generation, we can see that the biggest amount of energy that we consume in Costa Rica comes from fossil fuels. If you see the left-hand side graph, electricity comes from a 20% of the energy that we consume. The fossil fuels is the one that represents a higher consumption. In fact, if we project this graph from the left and we take it to the other sectors, we are going to see something very interesting. 50% of the energy that we consume is going to go to transport. And as you could expect, this transport comes from fossil fuels. So the part from electromobility is starting just now in Costa Rica. And we are going to see very particular things that are going on in transport. So looking at these two figures, we are going to start wondering, so maybe are we Costa Ricans are as green as what we think? Are we loving nature as much as what we think? These details are what we need to start tackling to actually figure out if we are as green as what we think we are. So if we start thinking about the projections that we are seeing in the next couple of years, and if we are going to see what we expect to see in the next couple of years, we're going to see the trends that we hope to see in the next couple of years. So we see here until the year 2030. And there's some scenarios that when we started seeing these scenarios, we did not take into consideration something very particular, which was the inclusion of the fleet of electromobility in the country as a big consumption of electricity. So these trends that were presented in 2015 are going to have to be adjusted, because with electric buses, the country is going to have to need more electricity than what was needed. So in fact, if we see the graph on the right-hand side, we are going to see how it is projected to obtain this energy. And in 2030, we only think that we are going to require a 3% of thermal energy. Always the thermal electrical is going to be the predominant. But something very important is going to be the solar resource. In this graph, we see that photovoltaic is not taken into consideration, and it doesn't appear because it is expected that in the estimations, Costa Rica is only going to require a 1%. So in here, I am going to say that when we made this graph, there wasn't many changes in the regulations of the country that had some restrictions acceleration in the growth of the possibility of generating photovoltaics. So this graph of the projections of energies could change with the appearance of more and more photovoltaic parks. So as a country, we also have set some goals to fight over climate change. So we have some decarbonization plans in Costa Rica. So I want to focus on the plan that we have, which is transport and sustainability in mobility. And here I want to highlight the first thing. For the year 2035, the 70% of the buses and taxis are going to be zero emissions. And we're going to have a train for passengers that is going to operate 100% in over electricity. So you would think that for 2035, well, we still have a long way to go, but no, I am talking about 12 and a half years to get to this goal. And in Costa Rica right now, we are having a pilot plan for electrical buses, and we still do not have a fleet for buses operating as such. And the taxis part is still not being developed in Costa Rica. So we still have a pilot plan that is going to start operating taxis here, but that project is going to finish next year. So this is a goal that we have to check that is going to be feasible to accomplish. The other axis is that for 2050, so in about 25 years, 60% of the light vehicles, we are talking about private, institutional, all of the ones in Costa Rica are going to be zero emissions. And for 2035, 12 more years, 25% of the fleet are going to be electric. So finally, in this axis, we are talking about an extensive network of electrical reload with infrastructure that is going to be complementary to support the inclusion of these vehicles. So the government started talking about this and we started working on that. Actually, there is a regulation, which is the law 9518, which talks about the incentives and promotion for electrical transportation. So here in Costa Rica, the government generated a law of exonerations and tax benefits that the electrical cars are going to have, so that they're easy to be acquired for the private users and public users. So there are different taxes, different rates that should be easier for the purchasers to acquire. There are components, different costs that make these cars to be easier to acquire for the purchasers. And this is aligned with electromobility. If you see this map of Costa Rica, you can see the allocation of all of the fast charging points. These are the orange points, and the semi-fast charging points, which are the green dots. So in here in Costa Rica, going from side to side, it's easier because we have a lot of charging points. So we're talking about L2 and L3 modality. For all of the cases, we have charging points. Here in the center of the country, where we have the big metropolitan area, is where we have the bigger density of the charging points. And even you can charge the cars in the houses. As electrical energy is good, generated with renewable energies as electrical energy, more or less the cost of generating a 50 kilowatts energy is 4,000 colons. uh, that's about 58 yuans. And if we talk about fast charging, this is per minute, but charging the whole battery, it's about 7,000. So it's about 90 yuans. So this is very interesting, and I have read this in many studies. The users of electrical cars travel more or do more tourism locally because they have um, less money to spend in charging their cars. So they are not thinking about the the fuel. This is not a variable that is so important for them. Now, what's the big disadvantage that we have as a country? What I put in here is the different cars that we can get here in Costa Rica. You can see that the brands are mainly Chinese. And what is the biggest obstacle for more users to be part of electromobility in the country is the cost of the vehicles. These costs that appear here are in dollars, in American dollars. And you can see that the cheapest model in the Costa Rican um, market is $19. This is with all the tax breaks. This is the price to sell for a particular user, for a particular purchaser. These are all the brands and the models, and we can make comparative studies. I have been to the task of comparing and in here in Costa Rica and in other countries. And the truth is that we are a little bit above what they could cost in other countries. And here is where I see what is curious. Costa Rica, with so many tax breaks, there is something going on. The price of sale of these vehicles is not as cheap as you would expect for as many purchasers to be able to have access to these vehicles. This is just an extract. There are more vehicles, but I just got to these ones. I'm talking about vehicles that are close to $80,000. There are other vehicles that go over 100,000 vehicles and $100,000. So um, I do not lose hope because here in Costa Rica, we are the country of Latin America that has the most electric vehicles for private use. If you see this list that I show, these are data. This is data from the Ministry of the Environment, and we can see that to February of 2023, there are 4,854 electric vehicles going around in the Costa Rican roads and about 1,098 motorcycles. So in spite of the cost, there are more and more people that believe in this technology and that make the effort. They see the benefits of electromobility in their economy or in the environment, and they make the effort. And to finish, I just wanted to show some challenges that we have for particular users. I also make the recommendation that to take the biggest benefit, it is very important to uh, learn to drive efficiently. So we have always been used to a combustion um, vehicle, and going to an energy one, it can be difficult. So we have to manage energy in a smart way. So we need to learn how the vehicle generates energy, and we have to lose this range anxiety. All people that go to these electrical vehicles, they are always autonomy anxious. When you learn to drive and lose this anxiety over the charging points, you're fine. You shouldn't be anxious about this charging points, and you should be uh, willing to make these decisions to the long term. When you analyze things to the long term, you're possibly going to need less investment, money investment, more than a gasoline one. In terms of taxis and fleets, it is very important to learn to manage energy. And it's different to a particular use, because when you are working with the vehicle, you're always going to need for the vehicle to have energy available. So that is why you need to manage the health state of the energy, because that is going to have an energy and a use that is going to be infinite. So you have to learn to plan the routes, and you also have to learn to use telemetry. With the data that you gather, you're going to have to support the drivers to drive in a good way. And also for the buses, it is also important to look for economy at a scale. The buses have a high cost, but when you can purchase at a scale, that cost can be reduced for the benefit of the passengers. So you need to make the buses a business model that is feasible, because people use the buses to travel. So the concessionaires need to have a profit as well. And that is where it is fundamental for the charging points to be able to manage differentiated rates for charging those buses and not charge the same rates for the other particular use. And also, it is also needed to think about new structures for use, because the places where the buses are maintained, they need to be places where, apart from being maintained, they have charging points, because the buses need to be operating in an ongoing way. So with that, I want to finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Aramis Pérez.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aramis Perez. It's been really interesting to get to know the situation of electromobility in Costa Rica, and mainly the challenges that that has meant. You have shown us a very broad and very clear situation of what Costa Rica is going through, and I want to congratulate you for what you are doing. Thank you very much. So right now I want to leave you with our next presenter. He is Professor Rudy Henry Van Els from University of Brasilia. He is an engineer from the Federal University of Maranhão. He's a master's in the University of Brasilia from the area of control and computing from the Sustainable Center of Development from the University of Brasilia. He's an associate professor at the University of Brasilia as well in the energy engineering course, and a master's in mechatronic systems. He has experience in electrical engineering with an emphasis of process control and automation. He has experience in research in areas of electrical engineering. He develops research in areas of renewable energy, rural electrification, and sustainable development. He will present about the topic of electrical mobility and the paradigm shift. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Several countries in the world have taken the decision to reduce their share of vehicles powered in internal combustion engines. As it was shown here, China made that decision many years ago. In the case of Brazil, this discussion is just starting. So now, before starting, it's good for us to show what is understood by mobility, electromobility. This is what is understood by vehicles, action by an electric machine, independently on the way that it comes from. So it could be transport of masses, metro trains, where you are going to transport people, interurban or individual transport. It could be scooters, cars, planes, or electrical machines, independently on the sources. So we're going to talk about the urban parts. But I wanted to talk about some paradigms that we are going to have to break so that we're not trapped in a logic of the individual transport that could collapse because of the unsustainability that it has in itself. So in the urban transport, you can see that electrical transport is present when you talk about the transport in the metro or in the train, because this is what it's it makes viable for you to transport. Also, you can see a change of the substitution of the conventional transport, like the buses with the diesel transport, to be transformed into electrical transport. They could be hybrid or electrical with batteries. The fact is that the mass transport in the big centers, urban transport, are going to be electrical, because if the people cannot maintain them, they're not going to be successful. In the individual transport, we can see that we have a big amount of automobiles that maintain the urban circulation, where you can be trapped in for a lot of hours. The analogy that I make is of a live body that are trapped with fat, and at any moment you could have an attack. You could have a stroke. So you could be dead, but you are actually lucid. What you need to do is to unclog that vein. If not, you cannot have any solution. So looking from the outside, when you see that amount of vehicles that go from the outside to downtown, you are going to see that it's not very efficient, because most of the time you have just one driver in one car that has the capacity to take 5 people. So the efficiency is very low. You can also see that the vehicles are going to get to the destination, and they get 8 hours to their destination, and then they get back with the same person in the same trajectory, empty again. In general, they're going to travel for 50 kilometers per hour. So the conclusion that I get from here is that it's not very efficient. Only the change of the motor, the engine for electrical vehicles would be better. We need to change the paradigm. We need to rethink about the individual transport in urban centers. So the first paradigm is the size paradigm. We need to think about 1 ton for taking one person. It's overdimensioned. They have to be smaller, they have to be lighter, and they don't have to have four wheels, and they don't have to have four positions. So that opens big, they give us big options. Apart from that, the size also have the security options. It is possible that with the change of the size, we can take advantage of the parking spaces, where today we have one little car, we could have more, two, three, or more.
Agora, falta segurança para quem anda a pé, de bicicleta ou de motocicleta. No paradigma de uso também, a gente vê que o atual modelo de transporte individual, ele incentiva cada cidadão a
This is going to give an incentive.
O sonho do carro próprio, certo? Ele é vendido como um sinônimo de liberdade, de emancipação.
This is going to give the possibility to open the horizons. The car is a sign of status, maybe even more than a known house. The electrical car is going to allow a new way for you to use the vehicle, is going to allow a new way of use. The client is going to leave the car for the other person to use this car. So that means you don't need to buy the car to use it. That is going to allow for changing the way to use it. Telemonitoring is going to allow this new way of sharing the car. In terms of supply, the problem with electric cars is their supply and the questioning of the recharge time. So people forget to point out that the current system, they need a logistic of supply with a highly flammable product in the urban area with a combustion engine. So where you take the vehicle to be supplied in 5 minutes, which is the paradigm that we have today. So the paradigm that we have to have today is that we need to change it. So you do not need to take this to the gas station. Because the more time the car is stopped, in this sense, the car could be loaded in any place that is that can be served by an electrical post, and that already exists. And in that case, you're going to be able to do it. Any parking lot could sell a load in the same way that you can sell a credit load for a cell phone. But there is another change in paradigm that I would like to point to, which is the production or the business model paradigm. Today, in the conventional product, we have a combustion model. In the electrical model, this is going to change because
Isso muda porque o motor elétrico, as baterias, o
in the
sistema de
batteries,
controle e
in the
todas as
control
partes que
model,
hoje compõem
and
uma
all
elétrica,
of the parts that compose an electrical model can be acquired by any manufacturer, and they can be easily interchangeable. And that is going to take us to something that is very interesting that also happened, where we created some time ago an industry to the personal computers. In the computers, all of the components are interchangeable. So that made the industry much more dynamic and competitive and also innovative. If we perceive that in this new model, this new electric car, in this new electrical car, we could have a new industry where the client could specify what model they need to have and what autonomy they need to have. So in there, the manufacturer could impose a model, a specific model, but that would not be the case. But you could have a model according to what you need. I really like that. So it would be like an analogy of what you could do with a computer. So you buy your CPU and your specific screen, so specifically what you need, but in a car. Imagine that. So you specify the car that you need, you specify the motor that you need, the battery that you need, the wheel that you need, specifically what you want, and that is exclusive. That is going to take us also to the race of new entrepreneurships, and that could raise to a new differentiated model where you could also have a new unconventional models. Apart from that, we're going to have new models, new ways of entrepreneurships to attend to new businesses that could appear. And finally, we have the social benefits. Who is benefited by the transport? A lot of people. So the state needs to direct this, and they need to check the rhythm with which this is going to happen. So they need to see if they are going to follow the old model with internal combustion, or they're going to create a new model, a new arisal of entrepreneurship, if they are going to be willing to make more dynamic this model. So we already saw some speeches, the previous speeches. We saw how the transport systems have been changing. Today, we see how electromobility is moving forward. In the case of Brazil, we see here in Brazil that in the decade of the 70s, Brazil was also a pioneer when we decided not to depend solely on imported gasoline, and we implemented a program that was very, very ambitious on biofuel based on ethanol and sugarcane. And today, Brazil is a reference when we talk about transport and mobility and ethanol. Unhappily, we did not take a very effective decision when we started talking about electromobility. but we always have to take a first step. So that was my contribution. Thank you very much, everyone.
Muito obrigado, Dr. Rudy.
Thank you very much,
Muchísimas
Rudy.
gracias por su exposición y su visión
Thank you very much for your view
sobre
and
electromovilidad y los desafíos
your
de
presentation
Brasil.
about electromobility
Y
in
ahora quiero
Brazil.
dejar con ustedes
And now I want to
Dr.
leave you
Juan José
with
Negroni,
Dr. Juan José Negroni,
doctor ingeniero en electrónica por la Universidad Politécnica de
doctor in
Cataluña.
engineering in the Polytechnic University of Catalonia. He has developed research on switched power converters on non-conventional renewable energy systems,
Destacando
mainly
principalmente
highlighting photovoltaic systems connected to the grid.
miembro del Institute of Electrical
He is a member of the IEEE for more than 16 years, and he's a vice president of the member of the College of Engineers of Chile. He has more than 20 years of experience in academic activities with participation in disciplinary and interdisciplinary research and innovation in projects in national and international institutions. He's currently a dean of the Faculty of Engineering in University of Santo Tomas. The professor will present Electromobility plus Chinese, the Electric Revolution, Chile and China. Thank you very much, Juan Jose. Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you very much to the CLEC Foundation. I am honored to share this day with Dr. Charles Mangyang, Sang, Dr. Rudy, Dr. Aramis. Thank you very much to all. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank you. Into 5. And I want to highlight the collaboration between Chile and China and the future that we should build together.
Tema que ha ido ganando terreno fuertemente en nuestro país.
Chile has committed to reduce their greenhouse gases, and the adoption of electrical vehicles is one of the measures that are being taken to achieve this goal. So in this way, you can see here, because the 25.5% of the emissions of greenhouse gases are responsible, the transport is responsible for this. And I can also say that 12% of the deaths are partly due to this contamination. Yes, I think we have some problems with the connection.
Creo que me quedé por aquí por que en nuestro gobierno, ¿no? El gobierno chileno ha establecido una meta de 40.000 vehículos eléctricos en las carreteras para el año 2020.
So we have, the goal is to have 40,000 electrical vehicles in the roads for 2023. Particular vehicles specifically. So just in Santiago, I can say that we have 60,000 megawatts for electrical vehicles. We have an electromobility strategy, national strategy. This is a document. We have concrete objectives for this. We have what the goal for 100% of public transportation to be electric for 2040. And for 2015, we went for particular vehicles to be a 40% of the park, for the automotive park.
para estos fines y el
So we need to foster investigation and development of human capital for this. And also we need to transfer knowledge and information. This national strategy of electromobility is based on 4 pillars, mainly mitigating climate change and reducing contamination. Acoustic and atmospheric is one of the goals, decentralization and decentralizing actions and electromobility, coming closer with benefits and mobility, electric mobility to people, and also advancing with gender equity and electromobility. So how are we seeing ourselves in electromobility from Chile to China? As the professor was saying, China is a leader in electromobility. The demand of electric vehicles is growing, and we hope that it keeps on growing in the next couple of years. And the Chinese government has been increasing their demands. In Chile, aligned with the international goals, we are acquiring practice for an increasing electromobility. And that has been authorized by Chile already. Models that are manufactured in China are going to have homologation directly in the Chilean market. This is considering the advances that Chinese electromobility has had in the security systems. The Ministry of Transport has recognized in the Chinese vehicles a benefit that is direct and clear in the Chilean market. On the other hand, we consider that the collaboration in Chile and in China is fundamental. First of all, given the importance that both countries are giving to electromobility, we have a huge potential in collaboration in these countries. Chile has a huge amount of natural resources. And as we can see, Chile is the third producer of lithium. And this, of course, is going to favor the production of batteries. Also, we consider that the Asian production and adoption of electrical vehicles is of big use of our country. If Chile gives an input in production, then China can give us an input in the adoption and operation of the electrical vehicle. This union can help us to be able to accelerate this electromobility, not only in Latin America, but also in the world. What are the challenges that Chile has in electromobility? In spite of the fact that we have had electromobility efforts that are important, one of them are the lack of infrastructure, load infrastructure in some zones of the world. Chile is a country that is long and thin and that has many kilometers. There are more than 4,000 kilometers, and covering all of the areas with loading infrastructure is fundamental. Another critical point is that we still have a high cost of electrical vehicles, which still limits accessibility for people. Even though some people have implemented incentives, but we still have a lot to do to make it more accessible to purchase to the population in general. These challenges that are presented to us in general for Chile and for China, they have a big potential to lead the transition to electromobility. Both countries are committed to the reduction of emissions for greenhouse gases and the adoption of electrical vehicles are one of the measures that are being taken to achieve this. We expect that the demand of electrical vehicles is going to grow in the whole country in the next couple of years. And we hope that we are going to implement policies to foster this adoption. So it is fundamental for us to learn Chinese. And why is it so important, the Chinese language? Because China is the worldwide leader in the manufacturing and exportation of electrical vehicles. So here I want to take what Rudy said in his presentation. It would be so important to have an assembly of vehicles as we had an assembly of computers in the world, vehicles that are assembled with different pieces that allow us to incorporate these vehicles in a fast way. And as we have such an important need of electrical vehicles, we have been importing vehicles in a fast way, and Chinese components are an important part of that. On the other hand, in the other part, we have the Chinese importers of batteries that mean a commercial link that are important, and the language is important. So speaking Chinese is very important. This is fundamental in the relations, in the commercial relations. So for all of these reasons, we think that Chinese language is key for the expansion of electromobility. In Chile, we have 5 universities that teach Chinese language in their curriculum, but we only have University Santo Tomas in the Faculty of Engineering includes it in their curriculum, in their careers, in their engineering programs. So we are very happy to tell you about these advances. So thank you very much, and we are here for your questions. Thank you very much, Juan Jose. It has been very interesting to hear about the reality of Chile in electromobility and what we have ahead, and also about the Chinese language and Chinese Plus and what we have been seeing here in electromobility. And undoubtedly, the engineering faculty, it was the first one in Latin America to implement this Chinese language in their curriculum in Universidad Santo Tomas. So right now we will invite Cristobal Sperer. He is an architect and urban planner who will ask the technical questions and final comments of this online seminar. So Cristobal, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes, perfectly. Well, I want to thank you everyone for being here and all of the panelists for your great presentations. And I also want to highlight something. Everything that has been presented share a common challenge, which is decarbonization to achieve the adequate indexes of decarbonization. So now we are going to start the questions according to the presentation order. So we will start with the questions that have been raised.
Perfecto. Seguiremos con Aramis. Aramis, usted mencionó distintos tipos de usuarios.
Aramis, you mentioned different types of users, taxis, fleets, and buses. How is cargo and merchandise transport included here within the logistics sectors of Costa Rica in the last mile example? Yes, we included a pilot project here in Costa Rica with one of the colleagues from other universities. And he had a cargo vehicle here in the country to do different routes, and the results were positive. I am working in one project that is related to the development or the methodology that the companies need to follow, the companies that need to incorporate electrical vehicles to their fleet, because as the presentation said, the electrical car is not just take a chauffeur and then a driver and then put it to drive. No, it's efficient driving and efficient management. If you put them to drive and then load, you need to see if they work or not. So learning how to manage them, how to load them, it's how to charge them. So that is so very important. The investment, the economic investment that this means, the whole conversion, as I was telling you, the price of the electric cars is still higher than a combustion one. So it's all management. Thank you. Now we go to Van Els. So this is the question from you, from your presentation. How does it affect the extension of the geographic extension of Brazil, the application in electromobility? And what are the solutions or the policies to overcome these challenges? That's a very good question. Brazil has a continental size, right? It goes from the northern hemisphere in the Amazonian to the south, close to Argentina. We have a national red of electrical integration. So we integrate the big electrical companies that go to the north until to the south. So the electrical infrastructure that Brazil has gives us an infrastructure that is very differentiated to take advantage of all our network to be able to make this this conversion to electromobility. So how do we make it locally? That is a challenge. As I said in my speech, we have in our logic, we always try to look at the problem starting from the way in which we try to do things. Today, in our logic, we take our car, we go to the charging point, and then we load. Now, looking at this logic the other way around, we get out of this trap and we look at a new way to look at this problem. So we try to manage the situation. As the previous professor said, if you have a fleet of 20 vehicles and you are going to load them simultaneously, then it could be that you cannot attend that because the system does not support it. So you need to manage the vehicles that the people are still learning. So in that way, you need to reinforce this need of the people. So you need to turn around the problem and you have to solve the problem in an innovative way. I hope that I answered your question. Thank you very much. That's a very good question. That's a very good answer for the question. And now we are going to go to Dean Negroni. So I would like to ask you, how do you promote that higher education institutions and public and private companies get involved in the formation of human capital in the area of electromobility? Do you have a plan for that? Yes, thank you very much for that. I think it is important to understand that electromobility has many aspects. One of them is related to the maintenance. The cost for maintenance are 60% or less compared to the cost for maintenance for a conventional car, particularly in the public cost. The universities need to consider that electromobility of the professionals need to consider that electromobility as a total cost that is going to consider maintenance, purchase cost, and operational cost. And being aware of that is part of what we need to teach. So understanding that the bed for electromobility is not paid for in the first years. It has costs in the first 60 months, and in the smaller ones is in the first 8 months. In there, you are going to see the cost and the savings. In the superior institutions, we are going to be responsible of the climate change. We are going to be responsible of talking about cultural aspects that are going to allow to understand aspects. So, for example, the lithium batteries, the sodium batteries, which are new technologies that China is boosting, that are changing paradigms. As Professor Rudy was saying, the changes of paradigm today are fundamental. It is fundamental to understand that the world is changing at a higher speed, and the adaptation of professionals is very important. Aramis said something very important. He said that, for example, in Costa Rica, in general, their energetic matrix is green. Hydro is the biggest one. However, they have a very important problem that they need to tackle. And electricity starts being something very important. And that is why universities have an important role in here. We need to start creating professionals that start seeing beyond their discipline, and also start considering language as a fundamental part of the development of their profession. Is not just speaking another language, is understanding the other's culture to start creating a good relationship from the cultural point of view, so that the cultural point of view starts permeating the commercial part. Thank you very much, Professor. These are topics that are very interesting.
Muchas gracias por la respuesta. Y me
Thank you
gustaría
very
hacer
much for the answers. And I would like to ask the two last questions, and maybe any one of you could answer. How can we improve the performance of the batteries, and how can we reduce their environmental impact? So any of you can answer? Can I? Sure. Well, I participated in an investigation in creation of a roadmap for the management of residues here. And we compared the regulation, international regulation. And it is important to understand that the batteries of electrical cars can get to the end of life for the main use of electrical cars. This does not mean that the battery cannot be used for anything else. It is important to certify And for these batteries that are for electrical cars can be used for other things, for other vehicles that need less power, because in that way it is possible to extend the life of these batteries for the 5 years, for 10 years. So, for example, we could extract the batteries of the cars or the buses to provide energy for a house. So maybe we could use these batteries for support for substations or for micro networks that are that could be used for certain communities that maybe could have problems for getting energy in other ways. Maybe we could also think that when they do not have second life applications, there we could think about chemical processes where we could maybe grind them and separate elements to reuse this raw materials. And there we could be thinking about a circular economy.
Perfecto.
Great.
¿Algún otro de los panelistas que quisiera comentar?
Any other panelists would like to comment on this? Yes, I would like to give something additional to this. China has started to develop something beyond sodium. And this is something additional to ion lithium. These prices are increasing fastly because we have a lot of lithium, but sodium batteries use sodium instead of lithium, which is a bad news for Chile, but they reduce lithium usage. What I want to say with this is that the world of batteries is changing fast. The manufacturers are more and more concerned to what Aramis was saying, this recycling and they're environmentally responsible and socially responsible as well. And the giant, the Chinese giant ATL, they're pioneers in recycling as well of batteries. And we have a big dependency on acid lead in batteries. We are still very dependent on that, on storing energy. And I think that that is going to change in the next years, changing the paradigms. I think that that is very good. That is coming very strong. And in the case of recycling, I think that social responsibility, corporate social responsibility is also very important in the modern industry. That's true. And to finish, I would like to ask the last question. From your perspective and from your knowledge, could green hydrogen be a replacement for electrical vehicles? I'm going to try to provoke a little bit. Green hydrogen is more a vector for you to be able to feed any combustion engine or combustion motor. That is going to be the main role of electricity. It's going to be a vector of energy. The big thing that people have to have in mind is that where is the primary energy coming from? Fossil fuels, oil, coal, or renewable energies. And that is where the other change things are going to come from. So
esse nosso modelo de
you are
consumo de
not going to
energia
have a way to maintain the model of energy if you do not have a change that is going to be radical. So electromobility is going to have a way to change things. If you do not come out from that trap, if you do not think about a substitution of the combustion car, if you always think about substitution of your car, but the same size, the same thing, the same, always the same, but just electricity, no, you have to think about a lighter car, a smaller car, so different things. If you have to think about different things. If it's the same, it's just going to be one change. It has to be a radical thing. You have to facilitate by another thing different. The main thing is that the problem that you have, the problem is the excessive dependency that we have, first on the petroleum, on the fossil fuel, that dictated the whole model of transport that we are trapped in right now. So we need to change the paradigm. And when we change the paradigm, we can look at the different alternatives. Latin America, for example, now has the possibility, as Professor Negroni talked about the stock of lithium. We have an alternative. Hydrogen as well. Brazil has a potential to do the transformation of hydrogen. So we have several options. We need to look out, get out of the box. We need to look at things from a different perspective. Thank you very much to all of the panelists for all of their different responses. This is a great possibility to talk about things from a different way, from a different perspective. Now, the word is the floor is yours, Roberto. Thank you very much, Cristobal. Thank you very much, Juan Jose, Ruji, Aramis, Min Yang in China. Thank you, Yang Sping. You have been great. We have seen how electromobility is a topic that, without a doubt, is something that we need to analyze, and how Chinese Mandarin is something that we need to talk about, that we need to think about here in Latin America as well. So I want to thank you again. This is something that is going to be in our social media, in our links, in our web pages as well. Generally, we're going to have more audience in our links because not everyone that is enrolled can see it directly. In China, it's already midnight, more than midnight. So Mingyang is already past her bednight, so her bedtime. So thank you for being here. I invite you to all of the seminars that we have in our foundation. We're going to have in another seminar in the day of Mi Sueño Chino. We're going to have Latin American students, and we are going to have many more seminars. Thank you very much for your participation, and we will see each other very soon.